Let's start from 1998. So, Liases Foras is such a unique name.
The name Liases Foras, we kept it because the reason is no one needed research at that point in time. It used to be considered as a forte of only IPCs, and Indian names were really not really given much of the credibilities, especially when it comes to the research. You would be surprised to know that the Liases Foras is the only company which is a member of the Central Advisory Council for RERA.
What was the reactions of people when you told them that you are a non-broking company into the real estate? So, how the idea came in about building a RESEX? What were the things behind it, and what exactly make it different from other market reports? So, sir, you have worked with different banks, regulators, and governments. So, sir, what's your take on how India has handled the urban growth?
So if you look at Greater Mumbai, I am pegging very high on Vikhroli, East and West region that has a very high impact. I am very negative over the South and Central Mumbai because the reason is
What still worries the real estate space? So, what's the one thing that hasn't been changed after years of regulations and data? So, hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of UpperCrust, where we decode the minds that are shaping the future of India. Now, we all talk about real estate. Some invest, some dream, or some just regret about not buying that flat in 2017. But is it all about the location, or the valuation? No one knows about it. But today we have someone with us who has completely flipped the script, or should I say, floored the industry with the data. Joining in Mr. Pankaj Kapoor, founder Foras Liases, the only real estate research company in India that doesn't involve in property transactions, doesn't broker deals, or doesn't only believe in guesstimates. He has spent over more than 2 decades building on the clean data, unbiased data that help government governs, that help developers to plan their decisions, that helps bankers even to lend the capital. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you, Mr. Pankaj, here. Thank you for
thank
joining
you
in.
through thank you for such a kind introductions for us and our company. Thank you so much. Please.
Mr. Pankaj, let's start from 1998. So, Liases Foras is such a unique name, and the business that you are doing is even more unique. So, what made you start the India's first research-driven real estate firm in a space where everyone was chasing sales and commissions?
Yeah, so it's been a long history. So I started this firm in 1999 as a proprietorship company. And the name Liases for us, we kept it because the reason is no one needed research at that point in time, and B, it used to be considered as a forte of only IPCs, and Indian names were really not really given much of the credibilities, especially when it comes to the research. So, in order to disguise the audiences and things like it, that we can provide superior research, and this is one space which is highly underserved when it comes to the quality research aspects. I needed to keep English name, and which actually connotes with present at that point in time prevalent IPCs. Like, so you have most of the names connoting more or less the name I kept it for our company Liases for us. So that was kind of a history which is there. And in order to not being a independent non-broking company uh, was very essential for my own survival, because the reason is they were every other or every intermediary companies is involved into the broking. So in
Right.
order to differentiate ourselves, I needed to keep the name um, or keep the positioning in such a manner that we are separating ourselves and I can probably own a leadership. And there was a big vacuum available in this particular space for this. So, and that's a basic reason all through 25 years of existence, we have remained a non-broking realty research company. And we could create a niche for ourselves, a position for ourselves. And there are requirements for independent data driven research, which was
Right.
although at that point in time it wasn't really much needed, because and that's a basic reason we had gone through a very very long struggle. Yeah.
All right. Uh, Definitely, it's truly innovative and inspiring to see what Liases for us has been doing. I understand how difficult it might be initially, right? So, sir, you took a bold call. No brokerage, no buyers, just a pure research. So, how did people reacted to it initially? What was the reactions of people when you told them that you are a non-broking company into the real estate?
Yeah, so there has been a complete, the company got evolved all through this. So just prior to starting this company, I actually happened to work with a real estate firm way back in 96 97, and that was a company which was planning to come up with a project in Bangalore Dodwalapur, and they supposed to have international collaborations with 54 different entities which were rendering different types of services. And that is the time I really got to develop for first time a pricing rationale for real estate sector. So I developed a mathematical models where I analyzed and rated projects on close to 700 attributes. And that is one first time I really learned and realized that the real estate as a product is actually is a combination of several things, because it is immobile. So when person purchase the property, he purchase the infrastructure surrounding. He does he there's the product is not mutually exclusive product, and that intrigued me so much. It's a space science to it. So when I developed the first pricing rationals and things like it, and compared it the properties and came up with the valuations, like comparable valuations, looking the attributes of the properties, over 700 attributes and things like it, I just felt I have unraveled something in the real estate sectors. And I got highly into. But having said that, over 25 years of being a student and the researcher in this particular sector, I realized that it is the least studied space. We
Right.
have gone to moon, and then we have gone to Mars, and planning the to explore the celestial space. But when it comes to the earth and the real estate, which is also a space science, we haven't really done much in terms of, and largely because we have not aggregated data, we haven't really analyzed and compared properties in a scientific manner. And with so if you look at across the kingdoms, through the histories and things like it, you realize that the land has been the most potent assets, whether the kingdoms or the countries or ruling rural of that particular kingdom and all those things wants to really own all through, and which remains today also, whether the government or whether the individuals, they want to own the land, and the land value appreciations really brings the wealth of the people. But having said that, it is the least studied and least rationalized. So this is one area which actually all through the years I realized this is highly underserved. So the studies were very much needed, so we dedicated, and through the learning process, the company continued to be evolving. So we built few models in the beginning, then we realized the model is not complete, then we rebuilt certain theories, and in order to substantiate the hypothesis and of those theory, we started aggregating data, and then the stakeholders joined them who found the data and the approach fulfilling some of their needs, and that's what we started offering services to the bank, HFC, and developers as a non-broking. And so if you look at now, there have been in the last 4 or 5 years, there have been a few purely data driven companies which have also emerged. So it has been a journey. So we began that, but now there are few more companies which are joining the bandwagon and things like it. And my own sense, as the market is expanding, data is available, you will see more and more company will be joining that.
Right, I agree with what you said, sir. Sir, you mentioned that you started Liases Foras in 1998. So, collecting data in those early days must have been tough, right? So, how were you managing things? So, were it just site visits or third party, or how you were managing the data? So, I am trying to
So,
understand that.
so the primary data collection has been site surveys, where we would go to the project sites as a dummy customers, and then and then retrieve the data. And frankly speaking, that process is still continuing, although now there are other sources of the data which is publicly available, like RERA data is available, IGR data is available, but there are challenges in the sense of the available informations mapping and many other challenges. So we are still continuing collecting the data through the field surveys, and we have been pioneer in this particular.
Absolutely amazing, sir. So now RERA and all those things have came in now, but Liasis for us has been the, pre-tech, pre-era thing
So,
which were helping
so
developers basically.
yeah, so while when the RERA was being instituted and conceptualized at that point in time, the Ministry of Housing was asking the data from us, where we were
Oh,
telling them about how many projects are getting installed, what are the problems prevalent in the market, why the RERA is so much needed. Although there's no official document I have, but when Mr. Venkaiah Naidu presented the bill in the parliament, at that point in time, he used the figures which we shared with the Ministry of Housing in order to in his introductory speech. So the RERA used our data, and you would be surprised to know that the License for Us is the only company which is a member of the Central Advisory Council for RERA.
this sounds really amazing, sir. So I have, read all those things, and it has been amazing. So I was coming to that part. So, Mr. Pankaj, now I want to get into the brain of the business, the tools and platforms that Liasis Foras has, built. So RESEX. RESEX has become the go-to housing index in India. It has been used by banks, regulators, investors. So how the idea came in about building a RESEX? What were the, things behind it, and what exactly make it different from other market reports?
So what happens is that when we started offering the data, we realized there were big challenges and the biases which were prevailing in the market. So the growth of the industry used to be considered as the price growth. No one was bothered about whether that price is selling or not selling. So there are inventory which was being priced and overpriced, and builder were not selling, but that was shown as a price growth market. And way back in 2007, 2008, such scenario was really saying booming. And almost all the quarters were writing a story of the growth and unprecedented growth of the real estate market, while the velocities were really one of the lowest at that point of time. So, and people were not bothered about, people were saying that 3,000 rupees rate has become 10,000 rupees, and that's a phenomenal growth of the market. largely because most of the supply was choked due to the regulatory roadblocks. And then we had opened up the market through the FDI money and things like it. So no supply to sell. Excessive money started chasing the market. The builder were playing games onto the excels rather than developing projects on the on the sites, or selling. So they were just escalating the prices of their existing inventory and then was trying to cash it out and things like it. That was a time when we started coming up with the RESEX. RESEX stands for Real Estate Sensitivity Index.
Right.
So, so what we said that the price alone is not a right parameter to ascertain the growth of the market. We need to see how the sales are growing, what kind of sales velocities are going on, what kind of inventory which is there, how the inventory overhang is there. So it's not just a price, but also what is market needed is price sensitivity. So the RESEX stands for Real Estate Sensitivity Index, where we brought these data, built in these kind of a trends and series where one can see our data, drill it down to the granularity level, that which projects, which builders, which micro market, what kind of sales supply, its trends, what is selling, what is not selling, what product, what kind of sales velocity, inventory overhang, and all those things came into being. So in 2007 we launched. It was inaugurated by Karnad ma'am. She was a MD of HDFC Limited at that point in time. And so that is something which we introduced in 2007, and lenders started using extensively from the angle of two, like, not only ascertaining the opportunity for the mortgages using the data, that which projects, which builder, which micro market are selling, so that they can focus on those particular projects builder, and also ascertaining the risk in the market, like, execution risk, price correction risk, builder rating, and all those kind of modules which we built over a period of time, which is there. So it's a comprehensive set of the data. So as on date we are covering 60 cities across India, capturing data of over 20,000 marketable projects across the sectors. And if you go by the RERA, it could be as high as 40,000 RERA projects. We are monitoring their sales progress, price progress, construction, inventory, all those kind of movements across all these projects which we are building. Using these data, lenders takes a decisive decisions. You know, assessing the opportunity, which micro market, which pin codes, which builders, where the sales are concentrated, so that they can go and capture the, or build in the relationship with those particular builders. And their risk team do the assessment, whether the builder should is having a default probabilities in positive or negative for funding or not. So they use our developer rating module. They use the desktop valuations modules to do data driven cross checking of the valuation. We built in pin code level granular HPI, which is being used by the lenders to for the indexations and the bulk valuations of their portfolio. We are also doing a bulk valuation using the comparable and desktop valuation module. And we have, over a period of time, integrated several sources of the data. So the primary data which we collect, and that is most robust. And then we also have integrated IGR data, which is available digitally, available from different places, different states, and then RERA data, secondary market data, several other layers of the data which we trying to integrate. So that's how the evolutions of the RESEX and the data has happened with us, and it has been expanding. And now we are planning to go to technical and legal due diligences of the projects and properties, so that we can offer a centralized data sets for the lender instead of they are doing due diligences for the projects for funding separately by each lender. So we can save some of the efforts and time for them.
This has been amazing, the tool you have developed. It has been helping banks, developers, and many others to, take the pivotal decisions. So, sir, as we are going through the tools that Liases Foras has developed, so I came across that you have also created the developer rating system that ranks over 10,000 plus developers in India. So, how do you gather that kind of intel? Also, has it ever led to the tough conversation with any big names? Because definitely no one likes being told that, they are below average. So, how was the journey behind this thing?
So it's a data-driven module where we do a project level assessment of a builder and then group all the project's performance to ascertain the builder's performance. And it is being used by the lender, not by the developer. So developer don't have access to these particulars. It's being used by the lenders for due diligences, especially whether to lend or not lend to a developer. And it has gone through the test of the time. So we actually developed it for one of the lender and with their team's involvement in 2011, and then post that most of the lenders started using, and it was measuring the on ground performances of the project. So if you look at, there are other rating modules which are available, but most of them are analyzing only the financial performance of the developer,
Right.
and which has not been able to really capture the execution and the location risk related to the or pricing risk related to the projects. So that is there. So if a lender has a good financial capabilities, he is considered a rated developer, but there has been a cases where the a rated developers have made a default projects because the location was uninhabitable, the demand was not interacting and things like it. So the module actually analyzes the project's on ground performances versus what he is promised, and based on that the assessment takes place. So a builder rating takes place, and we were very forthcoming in order to telling the world some of the names which actually defaulted over a period of time. And so that is there, and this is one market which I realized is highly opinionated market. So massive funding takes place by the lenders to the developers, and they go by the names because they feel they are comfortable. They only remember only those top 20, top 30 lenders, and they look at. And there have been a cases where there were biasness, like, a smaller developer have higher propensity of the default, but if you analyze that major money lost by the developer by the lenders were to the developers who were not a small developer in those times and all those things, and there were no B grade and C grade developers in their names and books, because they were just going by the name, that how much of money he is spending onto the advertisements and how big is the size of that particular builder, and that used to be a waste. So when we started doing the developer rating, it really gave another outlook to the lenders, which they were not really looking at, that how the project's performance are taking place, and based on that, what is the builder's performance, what is the habit. There are certain, if you see the data, you find that the certain builder have propensities to default irrespective to the locations of the projects and things like it. So they can see their trends. They can overlap their own sets of the data. So financial data, they may have their own access. So we have on ground performance matrix, and then they may have their borrowing matrix and then some other matrix, and that's how the lenders started really taking a decision to go ahead with the developer or not. Secondly, what happens is that no lender knows more than, so there are 10,500 or 11,000 developers which are existing right now. 8,000 of them are actually small developer where the value of their ongoing projects supply is less than 100 crore individually, but there are sizable chunk of that. And as the expansions of the credit taking place and number of lenders are getting added, I think they started looking at the expansions to the smaller and smaller size of the developer where the information is much needed for taking any kind of decision. So it is becoming an enabler for them to really take a uh, informed decision whether to go ahead and not to go ahead with this. So that's how it has been helping them.
This is very interesting, sir. Also about your magnet theory. It predicts where the next property boom could happen. So, sir, what's the
Yeah,
logic behind it? And has it actually worked out, like worked in a real life? If you can share some
yeah,
story, if you have. And is it
yeah,
possible that it can, spot the next Gurgaon?
yeah. It is. So what happens is that in 2007, I was driven by the hypothesis that everywhere they were talk about the extensive urbanization is taking place in India, locations will grow. Every location was being considered as a strategic locations. There was no econometrics model, there was no actually a scientific module through which you can assess that which locations will grow, what would be the hierarchy of growth, when the infrastructure will get, how, when it will start really growing and things like it. So that's where I developed the theory. It took close to 1 year for me to continue thinking about the
Oh.
magnet theory. So magnet theory has three element. One is called zone magnet, is like every location attracts, and that attractability is defined the desirability and the demand quotient of that particular location. So one is the zone magnet, and zone magnet I defined with respect to one index, which we call it the economic density index. So I said that a location which is highly posh, where the density of high-end people are higher, and the location which is poorly or inferior in terms of the demographics, where the density of low-end people are higher, or the location which is undeveloped where there's no density. So we built in one index called economic density index to define the mathematical number to define each location demographic density or economic density of the demographic. So what we took is we divided the city into, we did this study for Mumbai MMR regions at that point in time. We divided this each city into micro markets, and then we took the built up area density of each zone, and then we used the rental and real estate rates to do the ascertainment of the income classification. So we develop the income density, that like, so it is something like, why, what is the difference between Kurla and Pedder Road. So Pedder Road has a high end density of high end people. Kurla has a low end people's density, but it also has the density. So the high end, like, so if someone who is earning 2 crore rupees and there are 20,000 people, so the product of these two will always show that the Pedder Road has a higher economic density in comparison to the lower end. And I found very high correlations with the property prices. So the locations, property prices are highly correlated to the economic density of their zones, which is there. So this was one element. The second element was infrastructure, and the economic or third was like economic hubs, distance from my economic hubs. So people buy or live on the basis of where they work. So closer proximity to their workplace is will have a higher price. As you go farther, then the prices diminishes because you spend more time and take more inconveniences in traveling. So that is one thing, and infrastructure become enabler. So today And what we have seen in the recent times, that the metro boom and then Trans Harbor Highway link and many other things which are making location more accessible. So what we did is, in 2007, MMRDAs had the laid down infrastructure map which they were planning to really develop with their timeline. So we laid it down as per their completion timeline. We built in economic density, and based on this completion timeline, we looked at the spread of economic hubs against the each locations, how the convenience was getting improved. And based on that, we came up with the growth indexation, which location will grow. And you'll be surprised that when we looked back the data, I wouldn't mind really sharing that particular report sometimes later, and we can do a complete podcast of the report which we did in 2006 2007, that it predicted so well, except for Thana, because Thana in 2007 was not having that time, the flyover built up envisaged at that point in time. So it was a missed infrastructure in my own assessment, but that actually overgrown. But rest all the cities, and what it also suggested, 2018 to 21 was a recessionary period because most of the infrastructure was getting ready at that point in time. And so it throws the light. After seeing the success of this particular model, we are now coming with a product for the consumer where they are where we are trying to offer the predictive analysis to them by building an investable score for their projects and locations. That, so how, which location have higher propensities of the growth and which are lower. So what we are considering the rental yield, future infra impact, and based on that we are doing or providing the scores, which location or which project has a higher return probabilities in the next 5 to 6 years time. And that is something for the consumer product which we are trying to build. And we have also integrated execution risk and other things. So on our portal Property Science, which is right now offering only desktop valuation, we'll be adding three more services. One will be house hunt integrated with investment return and risk rating analytics. Uh, you can search about any specific project's investable score and download the report. You can carry your desktop valuation, and you can schedule a call with the analyst and then tell your requirement, and upon the subscription of the services they'll be able to guide you which is the best buy for you, but will remain non-broking.
Right. So, sir, as I said, what your magnet theory is suggesting right now, any city which you think would boom in the next 5 or 10 years?
I'm saying that not the cities. It's cities are too macros to look at. What you need to see the which micro markets of the cities will grow, and how much we like. So, uh, like Mumbai have some of the very interesting. So if you look at Greater Mumbai, I am pegging very high on Vikhroli, East and West region that has a very high impact. I am very negative about the South and Central Mumbai, because the reason is that is one area where we are seeing it was very high end, and most of the infrastructure has already got developed. The future improvement is more in the suburbs, so the improvement will be drawing prices towards the suburbs rather than towards the city. City may find it difficult to really hold the prices because demand percolates to the lower prices and better infrastructure and similar conveniences. So the vectorized importance. So it's a very simple example which I give it to the people, that earlier the going to Ulve used to take from say Lower Parel 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Today it takes 20 minutes. So instead of buying uh, 12 crore rupees of 4 BHK, or 15 crore rupees of 4 BHK in Parel or Shivri and some of these particular regions. People may go down to Ulve and Uran, which is 20 minutes away from there, and build their own farmhouses and or a bungalow, and then they can manage within 2 to 3 crore rupees prices, and the distance is not too far away, and that kind of connectivity role which will be playing on that. So Greater Mumbai, the peripheral areas of the suburbs are slated to really grow. Exterior area, which is like Bhivandi, is showing very high growth potential. We are seeing Pain showing a very high growth potentials. Some of the regions which are for when it comes to the Mumbai, so it is more micro in the nature rather than macro in this region. So what you need to see that there are four factors which defines the price: distance, density, surrounding, and product. And as you go far, the importance of distance increases, and that's why the urban
Right.
setting has inferior houses in the suburban region and exteriors of the suburban, because the reason is only the lower end people will go and live in that particular segment, and so people's income profile is also spread out to the urban setting in that particular manner. So more convenience location has, if it has a better geographical attributes, you would find the high end population sits on or lives on that particular location. So these parameter on which the real estate really sets in. So in this particular light, the whole city gets spread. So the location which are inferior in terms of the convenience, and then have the certain attributes available, have a higher potential propensities to see a higher appreciations, which the study suggests.
Right, sir. So, sir, now that we have covered all the tools that you have developed, now let's talk about what they are telling us. So, real estate market today is, full of mixed signals. Some people are saying it's booming. Some says there is a lot of unsold stocks available right now. So, I would love to know what's really happening on the ground according to your data.
So my own sense is there is a the industry is maturing and growing faster. So we should not look at the unsold. We should look at overhang on the unsold. So if we have got 3 lakh unit in Mumbai as an unsold, of which yearly if I'm selling 1.5, 1.6, that means that I've got 20 to 21 months of the inventory, which is one of the efficient period. So despite the inventory in the MMR region, which used to be in 2017-18 1.8 lakh unit, has grown to become 3 lakhs unit. But my sales also has grown from 70,000 to 1 lakh 60,000 or 70,000. So overhang point of view, the market has really grown in, like it has become more sustainable. So 16, 17, we had an inventory overhang was as high as close to 50 months or 60 months. Today, the inventory overhang is 21 months. So, despite the unsold inventory has grown, my inventory overhang has moderated down so much. And that's why the price is appreciating. At that point in time, there was no appreciation in prices because inventory overhang was higher, despite we had a lower amount of unsold inventory in comparison to today. So what you need to see in the ratios of the overhang, the inventory. So if market has matured, so I do not see price correction risk in the immediate, which the people are talking that 3 lakh unit ban gayi, price गिर जाएगा. All India में there is a 11 lakh unit unsold. So and which has been maintaining. So if you look at last 5 years or 6 years, inventory has dropped only by 8%, because the reason is if the sales are taking place faster, then the you see the builders are also launching more projects, so the inventory is getting replenished. It's only when the sales starts going down and inventory continues to be coming in, that's where the market really becomes inefficient, which we are not seeing right now. So far so good. I see the market is holding. I see it'll be maintaining a plateau. I don't see it will be showing a very, very robust growth, what it has shown in the last 3 4 years post COVID. I see that we are touching, we have peaked in that sense. I also see the market was highly driven by the luxury and ultra luxury segment market. We see the sales will, the structure of the demand may shift from luxury, ultra luxury to mid and affordable, where we were seeing lesser supply and the lesser volumes, or lesser volumes taking place. I see the structure of demand may change, but I don't see reductions in the volumes. I'm not seeing the reductions in prices. I see the market will continue to be maintaining its own levels going forward, and most of the
All right.
city.
Right. Now I have a better understanding of the whole scenario. So now when we are talking about the Mumbai, so I also wanted to know about the cities like Hyderabad and Ahmedabad. They are seem to be, better planned. So what things they are doing right or better compared to the Mumbai or the Delhi NCR?
So before Hyderabad, I would talk about NCR. NCR, if you see, for a long period time, in terms of the sales and supply, it used to be in tandem with Mumbai. So if
Right.
Mumbai had 1.5, 1.8 lakhs inventory way back in 2012, 13, and 14, NCR also used to be. But NCR went through a prolonged struggle where the lot of project got stuck and all. While post COVID, because of the state level reforms and the demand flow and the rationalized pricing, we have seen unprecedented growth in terms of the new launches in MMR regions. So, in comparison to MMR, NCR has become one fifth of its size. So, market is highly, squeezed in terms of available supply, because most of the local developers are still struggling. Only in the recent times, I've seen some new launches are taking place. So, other than the national players, which is like DLF, Prestige, Shobha, and one or two developer of NCR. Most of the older developers are actually absent from the Delhi NCR market, and that's a basic reason. Supply is highly squeezed, and because of limitations of supply, the price growth in Delhi NCR market is highest, because we have very limited supplies to take place to sell, and because of that, one more reason is this is a market which is highly dependent upon the investor. So there are some bit of speculative service forces also started working on, and that's why we have seen unprecedented, like, double digit growth in the property prices on last 3 years and 4 years. So some of the market which were in the range of 5 6,000 rupees are touching close to 12,000, 13,000 rupees range. Noida, Gurgaon is crossing 20,000 band and things like it. So which is way too fast and too much increase, and largely because we have limitation of supply. Hyderabad had its own story. So Hyderabad actually underwent a very prolonged corrections because of the Telangana issues. When every other city was surging with respect to prices, Hyderabad was not drawing any investments, and the prices remained highly subdued in that month. So they were underpriced, and there were a lot of value which was available. and and after the growth of the IT sector in Hyderabad, which also it drew maximum demand from the GCC companies, and a lot of IT companies started moving. It started showing the growth in the last 3 to 4 years. So you'll be surprised to know some of the pin codes, like Hyderabad pin code, which is Kokapet 50075, is the highest grosser pin code across India. and you would be surprised that it has become second largest luxury capital when it comes to the real estate market, and in
Right.
terms of volumes and all those things. So Hyderabad has been doing very good, and I see there are some sense of inefficiency which are building in. There may be a moderate corrections or prolonged corrections in the property prices, because the kind of supply and sales distribution which are there, I do not see the demographic distributions is mapping to the sales and supply distributions as on go. So there is a mismatch. So there may be a corrections which may take place going forward. It is overpriced. You have very high number of projects and the units available in the ultra luxury segment. There we have seen unprecedented growth of the new supply in that particular segment, so that is something which is concerning. But so far it has been growing this. So from 2012 onwards, uh, Hyderabad was showing very high growth in the property prices, but while from 2008 9 onwards, 9 to 12, when the rest all the geography was growing in terms of the prices, Hyderabad remained muted. So it had a late start, so it is growing faster, and going on well so far.
Okay. Okay, sir. Right. So, sir, you have worked with the different banks, regulators, and governments. So, sir, what's your take on how India has handled the urban growth? So, are we building cities for the people, or are we building cities just for the profits? Because we have seen that, there in many cities there are not no proper planning. So, what's your take on it? How India has handled the urban growth?
I'm saying that, like, in the last 75 years of the independence, India has seen only two or three cities growth, development, whether you call it Jamnagar or Jamshedpur or Chandigarh. Beyond that, we haven't really seen any new cities really got developed. Although during 2005 and all those things, we had numerous amount of the SEZs planned, and all those things did not really work in that manner. Largely because the reason city development or city creation is a complex process. So you can plan a SEZ in a city, but if you don't have employable population within the cities, the SEZ doesn't take off, because the reason the company will open an office only provided they have the workforce to come by, which actually had been a story for long. And so if you don't have critical mass, the city really takes longer to really prosper and grow, and goes on to the growth curve. But there are a lot of things which are changing now in India. So post COVID, we see the decentralizations of the economic cluster. So earlier it used to be everything was migration driven, like why Bangalore grew or Hyderabad grew or Mumbai grew or Pune grew, because the reason is economic growth was drawing the people from other cities, and that's where the demand for housing was really growing. But post COVID, as we are doing a podcast over there, earlier we were not really thinking about doing this kind of postcard. You had the meetings taking place physically, and then the conversation used to be taking place more physically. Now the remote working has become much more, and that has brought the dispersal of the economy. So we see now some city which have a sustainable population have at least some sense of economic development. So I was hearing, like, some of the companies have started taking spaces like cities like Lucknow, Jaipur, and other cities. So the tier 2 cities expansion is taking place in that manner. Government's initiatives for the smart cities also uh, has been partially successful. Especially they have done good in terms of the digital connectivities and digital framework. But when it comes to the ground level transformations, other than the metro connectivities and all those things, I think rest all the thing is yet to happen. But having said that, India is onto the path of developing. So best thing across India, which is going, whether it is tier one and tier two city, is the metro connectivity, which is making more land connected, and the city's transformation is taking place. The digital connectivity is also another disruption which is taking place, which is going to be transforming the cities going forward. India is also started taking. So few days back we had a podcast on spiritual cities and tourism driven cities. So that was also neglected. So we started attracting the economy built on the floating population, not completely dependent upon the living populations and economic hubs. So that is also will be drawing people. So there are various transformations taking place. So there may be some growth potential which will emerge, something like Prayagraj, where the Kumbh took place and so many people came in. So the new economy, 3 trillion rupees worth of the economy got developed. We also saw Ayodhya, that 160 million people actually went to pay the respect to the Lord Ram. And we also are anticipating this year it is going to be double then, because we already crossed those numbers. So that those floating population will also help galvanizing the growth of these spiritual cities. Metro will be connecting more cities, hybrid working model, low migration. So there would be a transformation. So it also says there would be a pressure for growth for the larger cities, because they may not see the same level of migration, because their cost structures are also higher. So there may be a diffusions in those cities and the improvement in the smaller cities. So all these phenomenon may take place going forward.
Uh, right, sir. So one last thing I wanted to ask, like, what still worries the real estate space? So what's the one thing that hasn't been changed after years of regulations and data?
I am saying that not worries, but having said that, despite all the data and the RERA came into being, this industry still works on the trust. I was very keen to refer to that. Like, RERA has made developers mandatory to put in all the informations on and they give possession timeline on the RERA. But what they mention to the consumer, assuming delivery will be in 2028, but in RERA, in order to avoid the penalties clauses, they extend the timeline by 2 years or 3 years time. Consumer goes by what developer is saying, and that's what I say, that the trust still works in this. Data is going to be enabler. Data is making consumer more informed. So today's consumer is much cautious, much informed. He doesn't buy the stories anyone can give. They actually want to read, they want to compare. Self-aware consumer, and both sides, like, rightly educated or wrongly educated, because there are huge amount of narratives which goes in for the social medias and all those things. So both sides of the stories which are there. So, but having said that, there's the informations are available and consumer are consuming these informations before really taking a call. And a lot of things is transforming and changing, but few things will remain same, is that the world of the developer will still be driving the decisions and this and their conduct. So if in past someone has really conducted badly, then they face the result for the ongoing or future projects, in his future projects for their misconduct or the default, that will be there. But the world is well connected, and lot of information and data is available. So a lot of times it happens is that today builder can't say that this is my price. The consumer says that I'll check the IGR data and see that last transaction takes place at what price. Then he goes to the RERA and checks whether the information's put in over there is what builder is mentioning or not mentioning. He questions and asks these kind of things. So a lot of things has changed, and changed for the betterment, and it has added to the difficulties of the developer but enabled the consumer, and it has become much better from what it used to be.
All right, sir. So before we end this, we have four quick fire rounds. So I will ask the four questions, and if you can just, give us small, simple answers to this thing. So first is like, sir, one city that's the most underrated right now in India.
Underrated. Underrated city, which one could be? Maybe Guwahati and
Guwahati.
Calcutta.
All right. And Calcutta. Okay. And sir, one city that's the most overrated right now in India.
Delhi NCR.
Okay. And sir, one law, if you wish, that could exist in the Indian real estate sector.
One law. I You probably will have to give me a hint.
All right, sir. One book or film or any idea that has shaped your thinking in building licenses for us.
I think the faith and the perseverance which was needed. So the books have changed, and then believe in doing and enjoying in doing what I'm doing, rather than looking into the market and the forces the others are doing much better than what I'm doing. Actually, the company got developed out of my research and the penchant for the research and unraveling the mysteries of the science and the price of the real estate. So that is something which actually I learned reading the books, and that is what has changed quite a lot. And then if you probably correlated to it, that the movie which I enjoyed quite a lot reflecting my path was Three Idiots.
Oh, all right, sir. Sir, it was truly insightful session. All the words you said was truly insightful and knowledgeable. I believe whoever is watching this podcast will walk away a bit smarter today. So, sir, thank you for joining in. Thank you for having
Thank
your time for us.
you. Thank you, Dhruv. Thank you.